Thanks, Jacinda. I'm just going to start with you, Josh Frydenberg, joining us out of Melbourne. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon, Peter.
Now, Christopher Pyne has been railing against how terrible the government's education package is. There's no money in the short term in particular. That really concerned him. He said that schools were being sold a real dud on that one. He also made the point that there were various elements that weren't required in the package. He had a lot of harsh things to say about it over a very long time before, obviously, he adopted it. Do you agree with those harsh comments?
Well, Christopher Pyne's been absolutely right. This Gonski process has been extremely badly handled by the government. What we have said now is that we'll give funding certainty to the schools over the forward estimates. But when it comes to the powers of the Commonwealth, and particularly the Minister for Education in this regard, we want to see a devolution of those powers to the school communities, to the principals and to the states themselves.
But just to be clear, though, if you elect an Abbott government, for the first 3 years, the entire first term of an Abbott government, if you elect an Abbott government, you will get a Julia Gillard schools policy.
You will get the funding that Labor has promised. But what you won't get, Peter, is the school inspectors that they are promising and the other powers that they want to give to the Commonwealth Minister for Education to put their hand in to every school and try to manipulate the processes. We don't believe that heavy-handed approach by the Commonwealth Minister is actually the right way to go. We want to see a devolution of authority to the school communities and to the principals themselves, because they're much more in touch with what are the needs and requirements on the ground. And, you know, for example, they want to set up a new bureaucracy, the federal government. They want to set up this new institute for school performance. I mean, is there really a need for that? But what we've said in terms of the funding that has been promised,
no need for that?
That will be okay. Sorry?
Schools are going well, no need to look at their performance in light of where we sit by world standards?
Look, we always have to increase our performance, but what we have said is it's not just a question of funding, it's also a question of standards, it's also a question of teacher quality, and we've put a big focus, Peter, on getting higher graduates, better performing graduates into the teaching profession. That's a real focus for us and for Christopher Pyne. So Chris is absolutely right in this regard. We want to devolve power down to the school level and to the principals and to the teachers, but in terms of the funding certainty, we will give the schools that going forward.
You say that your colleague Christopher Pyne is absolutely right on this issue of education. I wonder whether you think your other colleague Alex Hawke is absolutely right in something he told us here on Contrarians a little earlier. He said that you want to be Prime Minister one day.
Did he really? Well, I saw I had a missed call from him, so maybe he was going to be revealing that too. But I'm sure,
early lobbying for a front bench position. You heard it here first on Contrarians.
Well, I'm a very content backbencher, and I'm part of Tony Abbott's team. And you know, I've got one job to do, and that's to help Tony Abbott become the Prime Minister of Australia and the coalition give the country a better performing government.
But how long are you seriously, with your CV, your pedigree, going to be content languishing on the backbench when there is just so much dead wood on the coalition front bench?
That is absolutely false. There's some great performers there on the front bench and there's some great performers on the backbench, and you know, all good things come to those who wait. And I think, there are a number of really talented people that have come into the Parliament, both in 2010 and the years before that as well. We've got some fantastic candidates right around the country, particularly here in my own state of Victoria, and you've documented those, Peter. I think Tony Abbott has got an embarrassment of riches, and that's a good thing for him as he tries, hopefully, to form government after the election.
He does have an embarrassment of riches on his backbench. I agree with that. I think there's a lot of talent there. As you say, I've named them before. I've included you in that, Josh Frydenberg. But one of the other things, though, that I'd love to hear your views on this. On his front bench, Tony Abbott likes to crow about the experience from the Howard years. One of those people is Bronwyn Bishop, who becomes a cabinet minister based on her current portfolio if she retains it in government, and Tony Abbott has said that people will retain their portfolios in government. Bronwyn Bishop was dropped from the ministry twice by John Howard. Used to work for John Howard. What did John Howard see in her that Tony Abbott doesn't?
Well, John Howard saw in Bronwyn Bishop what I see in her and what Tony Abbott and the rest of my colleagues do, which is a fantastically performing shadow minister.
But he dumped her from the ministry twice. Not once, twice. And now Tony Abbott wants to promote her into the cabinet.
Look, this is a good try at stirring the pot, Peter, but the truth is Bronwyn has this huge following out there in the public. I've had her into my own electorate, and people just flocked to hear her, and she spoke with such conviction about her areas of expertise. And, you know, I think she will be a wonderful minister in an Abbott government. I look forward to serving with her there.
Ably negotiated. That's perhaps one of the reasons why Alex Hawkes thinks that you might become Prime Minister one day. Let me bring the panel in. Darcy, let me ask you on this issue. Look, there is an embarrassment of riches on the Liberal Party backbench, including candidates coming in at the next election. Not quite so much on the Labor Party, I would argue. I mean, there have been a lot of promotions onto the front bench, not that much talent left on the backbench that hasn't already sort of gone through the revolving door of front bench representation in the Liberal Party.
I think it's fair to say that Labor's ranks are nowhere near as old and crusty as the Liberal parties are.
But not in the backbench ranks. You can't say that. On the backbench, we can go through them. You name a Labor person. Let's go CV for CV right now. I'll start with Josh Frydenberg.
Look, I'll defer to your greater...
You can come out with one, just one.
I'll defer to your greater...
I thought I'd get to number 3 before you'd run out.
I'll defer to your greater knowledge of the backbench ranks of both parties. What I would say is that we've got a Prime Minister in Kevin Rudd who is hugely popular in the electorate in comparison to the Liberal Party's stale leadership, including Tony Abbott and Bronwyn Bishop. I think we're in much better shape.
All very on message there. John, let me ask you... at least in the Labor Party, you get a go. We've had more people on the front bench in the last 3 years under Julia Gillard and now Kevin Rudd than in the history of federation in this country for front bench rotations. So poor people like, you know, Josh Frydenberg, as capable as he is, if he was in the Labor Party, he'd almost be Prime Minister by now.
Look, I think it's disgraceful the way that talented people like Josh are being treated by Tony Abbott. There are really good backbenchers, and they should get a go.
You're getting doused with the kind of praise you do not need, Josh Frydenberg. But serious point though, John. In the Labor Party, like I asked to name a backbencher. You said when Darcy was too busy spinning, you said that it was that Nick Champion was one. Okay, well I then go. Let's go to Kelly O'Dwyer. Who do you come back with on the backbench?
We don't keep our talent on the backbench. We put our talent in the cabinet.
So you're saying that the backbench is really the dregs of what's left?
No, we've got changes coming. We've got Jim Chalmers coming in if the voters elect him in Rankin.
I'll give you that. He's a good one.
There are as the talent comes through. Tim Watts in Victoria. There are going to be people coming through. Joanne Pearce in Julia Gillard's seat. There are people coming through. Actually, being in the chamber finds you out. It finds out whether you can perform in the chamber. You can be a great politician. Up until the time you get into the chamber. We've seen the Liberal backbenchers. They perform well on television. They perform well in the House. I think the only reason that there's not been a reshuffle in the shadow cabinet is that they will lose 2 positions the minute there's a reshuffle. The minute they change, they lose 2 positions, and those 2 positions would be 2 people who'd lose a salary, and they would be enemies twice.
Who are they going to be? If you had to pick 2 that you think are likely to get dumped, because 2 do have to be dumped under the rules of engagement for the front bench, who will they be in your view?
On our side?
Yep. When you go into government, because there's too many on the front bench at the moment. Is it going to be a simple case that Tony Abbott will solve that problem with his appointment to the President in the Senate and his appointment to the Speaker, do you think? That's an easy way out.
You're asking me to look into a crystal ball, which is something I just will not do, particularly on this matter. And as you know, we've got a long way to go before we form government. This is going to be a very tight election. And no matter how many times Kevin Rudd tweets photos of having cut himself shaving, we've got to get the Australian people to focus on the issues. And the issues are in this disastrous economic document that Chris Bowen released today. I mean, let's face it, we're heading to $400 billion of gross debt in this country. We're going to have unemployment at 6.25% by 2014, 800,000 people out of work.
All right, you're going through the talking points now. These are the sort of things that John McTernan used to prepare for all my Labor guests. But, Darcy, let me ask you, you don't have talking points. That's a great start. It's good to have people on here. Dee Madigan's hopefully watching. She used to come in here armed to the hilt with talking points. Now, in your view, do you think that the Labor Party is going to be able to hold the line in New South Wales? I mean, you're a local government mayor here in New South Wales. It's going to be a tough sell, isn't it, in the wake of ICAC? Yeah,
I mean, Eddie Obeid's been dragging our good name through the mud for a very long time now. Everybody knows how tough the environment is for us in New South Wales. But I would say, and this is not spin, Kevin Rudd has just delivered the most radical democratic reform in the history.
You're just trying to take credit because you were part of one of the architects, weren't you?
Well, I think having a Prime Minister advocate for it and thousands of rank-and-file members who've been fighting for this sort of change for a long time has delivered a very radical reform. And I believe democracy is the best antidote to Eddie Obi.
Is that true, though? Kevin Rudd plagiarised your reforms?
No, it's true to say that there have been people like John Faulkner and lots of ordinary members of the party who've been fighting for a very long time to see power transferred from the back rooms of Parliament to the grassroots of our party. And just as Gough Whitlam before him was able to advocate for those sorts of reforms and help to deliver them, Kevin Rudd has done the same thing. All
right, hold that thought. A lot more to talk about. When we come back, I'm going to get the views of the panel on Team Obama. What is it about foreigners coming in here thinking that they can spin for Labor? We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching the Contrarians panel. Let me ask you, Team Obama coming in here. Now, you know, the last person to come in from overseas didn't exactly get the Prime Minister up at the election. She didn't even get to the election. What's going to happen with Team Obama? Well,
we're going to see lots of exciting rallying little videos, perhaps like the one we saw on Twitter today. Did you see Kevin Rudd in his call centre? We can do it, or it's time, or some old shit like that. Excuse me.
Thank God I didn't see it. But...
yeah, no, well, I'll send it on to you. I think that what we're going to get is a lot of this rallying stuff, probably a lot of sophisticated digital, sort of small-scale targeted grassroots stuff. But essentially, I think that Rudd is right. He knows that if he can harness this sort of feeling again, this Kevin 07 feeling again, then he's got a real fighting chance at it. And I think that that's what they're there for, is to get that vavoom again, even the sense of just having...
But does it really work? I mean, Darcy, at the end of the day, this whole sort of American rah-rah style of politics, you import that into Australia and your average Australian's just going to look at it and think, give me a break.
Yeah, I think the media overstate, and some political operatives overstate the importance of tactics and strategy. It's been studied to death in the States. What turns votes, what persuades swinging voters, is personal contact from passionate volunteers who are arguing the case for their side. And one of the things that
you guys have had a whole bunch of resignations ever since Julia Gillard was removed, because party members are much more upset than just people in the wider community. In the wider community, Rudd's quite popular, but in the party membership ranks, Rudd is not nearly as popular as Julia Gillard was, is my understanding.
My understanding is that since Kevin put forward the reform to give members a vote on the leadership, is that there has been a remarkable intake of new party members, and more importantly, in New South Wales and around Australia, the party has been moving towards a more grassroots-based model in which we recruit a larger number of volunteers to go out and make the case on the phones and door-knocking to persuade swinging voters.
Josh Frydenberg, what's your view on this? I mean, why aren't the Liberal Party drawing on the campaigning talents of the Tea Party Republicans out of the US?
Well, we're very happy with the homegrown talent that we've got, and we've also got a record and some policies that we want to campaign on, unlike the Labor Party.
Take us through the policy.
Which is, well, take us through the policies. Okay, our NBN policy. Our policy for Northern Australia, a reintroduction of the Australian Building and Construction Commission as well.
Your education policy?
We've got definitely some good policies around education. But, you know...
what do you think of Labor's policies around education? How do they compare to yours?
Well, it's going to be a top-down command and control system, and that's going to be a disaster for the school sector. But, you know, what we need to focus on here is the policy debate. I mean, unemployment's going up, productivity's going down, the unions have got more control, and Peter, you're asking me about President Obama's team that are coming over to spin for Kevin Rudd. Isn't this part of the problem?
Oh, give us a break. We've been on air for nearly 2 hours. We've got to move on to something.
That's right. Well, I mean, this is the point. It's, you know, it's celebrity politics. It's a bit of titillation out there. Let's get down to the substance of what's at stake here. The future of the Australian economy is at stake. You know, Chris Bowen has today released a disastrous document in breach of all their promises leading up to this point, and we're going to, you know, you can't give them a get-out-of-jail card. I mean, this is a disaster.
Josh Frydenberg, pick who your friend is. One of our people on Twitter have said Bronwyn Bishop has more class in her little finger than PVO has in his entire body. Do you agree with that or not?
Well, I'm not going to get into comparisons between, senior shadow colleagues of mine, shadow ministerial colleagues of mine, and the person who's asking the question.
Well, Navigator Josh Frydenberg, we are right out of time. Thanks very much for joining us out of Melbourne. Appreciate your company. You'll be back between now and the election. What's your prediction? Will Rudd announce it this week?
I don't think so. I think we're still heading to one on the 21st because you can't get in the way of Kevin and another overseas trip. And
all right, that's his birthday.
Meeting,
that may be a birthday present will be a re-elected Rudd government. You'll hope not. Thanks for joining us. Much appreciated. To the panel, one and all, thank you for your company. Staying for the marathon, John McTiernan, particularly thank you for that. Thanks very much for your company as well. Be sure and tune in to Australian Agenda on Sunday morning, where we will have Jennifer Westacott from the Business Council of Australia, as well as the Assistant Treasurer, David Bradbury, to explain what it was that Chris Bowen got up to today. We're out of time right now. Be sure and stay in on News on the Hour, but first, the weather.